On this episode of China Unscripted, pictures don't lie. With satellite images, we can literally see that China is preparing for war with the U.S. Welcome to China Unscripted. I'm Chris Chappell.
I'm Shelley John.
And I'm Matt Ganeshta.
Joining us today is Vinayak Bhat, a retired Indian Army colonel who worked in military intelligence. His specialty is interpreting satellite imagery, with a special focus on using those images to track the movements of Chinese and Pakistani armed forces. It's great to have you on the podcast. I'm really excited to kind of go through this PowerPoint you've created. So why don't you tell us a bit about just some general background about you and these satellite images that we're going to take a look at in just a moment.
See, I was in the Indian Army. I've served for more than 33 years in the Indian Army and retired in 2015. I was commissioned in 1982, and most of my service has been in military intelligence, and I've spent about 25 years looking at satellite imagery. You can see that I'm okay at satellite images, and that is what my work is all about. And it is all open source. I must tell you, it is all open source. Most of it is from Google Earth. Some of it is from other sources, which I have mentioned in most of my slides. The date which on the left down that is shown, that is generally the date of the pass of the satellite and the source from where it has been taken. So it is all open source, nothing secretive about it. It's just how I look at it and how I interpret it. Most of the technology that China has achieved till now is all stolen technology. Right from 1960s, they've been doing it. They did it with Russia, later on with USA, and now world over, wherever they get hold of new technology, they try to steal it from there, and then they innovate over that technology so that they don't have to, go through the entire cycle of the process. So that is how they've been able to do. So they've been able to advance so fast, so quickly. And that is a warning. Please don't get impressed by whatever the technology that they have achieved till now. They're really not 10 feet tall. They are normal human beings, but it is just that they are going in a particular direction to achieve global power status. That is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, as we get into the slides, I just give us a big picture of what the audience should be keeping in mind as we begin to look at Chinese troops movements.
So basically, I'm going through the satellite imagery of certain technologies in the field of space. Then later on, we'll go on to the Navy, Air Force, and the PLA Army. Little bit, whatever has been in the open source, most of it, what people know, I'm not covering that. I'm just covering those things because of shortage of time, those things which are really not spoken about much in the public. So that is what I'm trying to cover and give an overview of what all China has achieved and how it is trying to go ahead with those technologies. The basic aim of China is, to win against the entire world without fighting, without firing a single bullet. They want to win the wars, and that is what they're trying to achieve all through these technologies. They're weaponizing each and everything.
Can you give us an example of some of this technology you're talking about that's not being paid enough attention to?
Something like, I'll just give a small example of the Omega project in the Xi'an University. What China is trying to do is copy everything from the USA. Like USA had this Alpha, that is the solar-based, the space-based solar power project. Alpha was USA's brainchild, and China has copied it from there. It has started something in Xi'an University in China that is called Omega Project. And they have a massive structure which has been constructed there. They're trying to store the solar energy. That is the kind of thing that they're doing everywhere. They're stealing it. And you asked me about how I'm going to go about things. Like the first one I have shown on the slide, that is slide number 6. It shows the Yinli, which one, that is the rocket which has been launched from the Fu barge. It is a sea-based barge from where it was launched. So it gives many advantages. A sea-based launch gives many advantages. Large number of angles of fire can be achieved. Geographical restraints are not there. And of course, safety-wise and security-wise, that is the most secure and safe way of launching. That's what they're trying to do. So if you go on to slide number 7, that is what the Yinli rocket looks like, Yinli 1. If you see, you have a blue shed right in front of it. There is a 30-meter rocket sitting. They have been, trialing and testing this since 2021. And now this is the first time that they were able to do it in 24. They were successfully launched, and I think Yao Yin was the Yunyao. One series of satellites were launched, 3 of them. So let's come on to the next slide.
What are they using the Yinli one for?
It is much faster than Quaitro. Quaitro has been, like, if you lose a satellite in the space tomorrow during a war, basically China is preparing for war. And if they lose a satellite, Quaitro was supposed to be used for launching faster. But this is even faster, and with different launch angles. That way, they'll be able to launch faster, launch safer, and secure. That is what they're trying to do by using sea-based barges. And also, if you go on to the slide number 8, Long March 11H, which was launched from Hairui barge. If you notice, it has a container. The container is actually, the length of the missile was about 20 meters. And that, if you have it in a containerized form also, it can be used. Tomorrow, it can be put on any ship and it can be taken anywhere from where it can be launched. And it will be quicker, safer, and secure. That is what it is trying to achieve. So let's go on to the slide number 9. This is which has been seen in one of the air bases in Chengdu. That is a space plane cover. You really can't see the space plane. The cover is 12 meters by 4 meters. So most probably the space plane, reusable space plane of China would be about 11 meters by 3 meters. That is what you can deduce from this satellite imagery.
Well, how do we know that it's a space plane and not farm equipment in that shed?
With that kind of a shed of 12 meters by 4 meters, you cannot have an aircraft. So it is at a airbase where these new aircrafts are being tried. J-20 is also being tried from there. The J-10s, different versions of J-10s are also being trialed there, even till date. You can say that possibly, yes. You cannot say definitely, since you have not seen, nobody's seen even the pictures of the space plane. But we know that they have launched the space plane and it has been reused also.
So is the space plane like the U.S. space shuttle, or is it some other type of military equipment?
No, something like X-47 of the US. Okay, so that is the space plane of the US, and the same technology they must have copied from the US. I don't know how they're able to do it, but they do get everything that is in the US back home. Their Chinese students keep going to universities, the Chinese people who are working there. The moment they achieve something in their field, they are called back to China. Most of the mathematicians, the professors who are doing very well in the US, they're called back to China and they're used for all these purposes. And that is how they are probably getting the technology from there. We've seen many spy cases also who have been caught in the US and elsewhere, of Chinese origin people who were getting involved in these kind of activities of spying and espionage. So let's get on to the slide number 10. That is the China, how it is trying to use the space technology to, see the satellite imagery and get on to a particular, say they want to find out where the US aircraft carrier is going. So this is what they are going to do. They're going to use a GEO satellite that will be automated. So it will tell everything which is above 300 meters. Every ship which is above 300 meters will be identified by the GEO satellite and passed on to the MEO. And that MEO is not automated; it is monitored. The human is sitting there and he is seeing. Okay, so from 300 to 320 meters, whatever is the ship, that will be identified by the MEO satellites and then passed on to the LEO, the low Earth orbit satellites. That is controlled by humans, and the humans will be sitting and they'll be identifying a particular ship. Okay, this is an aircraft carrier and this is a container ship. They will be able to differentiate and they will be able to home on to the particular aircraft carrier. And this will save time by using AI. So basically the decision superiority comes into this. This is how they're likely to achieve it. This is what their aim is.
So the U.S. must have a similar system that can track Chinese ships and troops movements as well.
Oh yes, US will also be able to do it. Similarly, US has a large number of satellites. They do. India doesn't have that many satellites as yet, but yes, we are on the way to get into that field. The military really does not have many satellites, so Indian Navy is supposed to have some satellites. We also do have some ground positioning system satellites. The GPS satellites are there. So those are there, but we really cannot get a real-time picture.
So, big picture, this is China trying to create a system to be able to monitor U.S. troop movements in the event of a conflict or war.
Yes, they will be able to monitor. No, this is how I'm saying. Automatically, they will be able to monitor the troop movements, especially the expeditionary forces, the CVBGs, the carrier vessels moving. You know, so those are moving in groups. A large number of ships would be moving it doesn't move. A single aircraft carrier doesn't move. No, there are a large number of other ships are also there. So that can be monitored. Yes, it can be monitored. So China is also doing in the space various rendezvous kind of operations. We've seen in December 22 what had happened. Shenzhen 21 had closed on to Peitu 2G2, and they were almost 10,000 kilometers apart. They came down to almost touching each other, almost 100 meters from each other, and then they went back after a few days of trial, whatever they wanted to do. They're doing a large number of such trials in this space. The next slide is showing the Mars base number 1. This is slightly north of Kansu, in the Gobi Desert. The area is very similar to what is seen on Mars. Whatever information we have about Mars, the area is something similar, very dry, arid area, and the Earth is also almost red, like what is supposed to be on Mars. So these Chinese have set up a Mars base where they have, some craters have been created, control rooms have been created, garages for the Mars rover, and things like that have been created. They're also, trying to do exercises and, testing has been done, how to generate oxygen at that place. So without oxygen, you really can't do anything there or on the moon also. The same thing can be used on moon, but then oxygen would be required. About 5 liters of oxygen is required on a daily basis for approximately 6 people. So that kind of oxygen generation is required. That is very difficult. They are trying to do it with some kind of plants which they are growing inside this particular facility. Get on to the next slide, which is slide 13. It shows the craters. It shows a space capsule which is landed slightly away. So large number of photographs are available in the open source. But what is not available is the Mars number 2 facility. Okay, 15 is the one where this is high resolution. 14 is slightly low resolution. Okay, so here probably they would be doing that particular trial of generating oxygen without taking anything from here, probably through some plants. Okay, some nuclear technology, what they're trying to do, they're trying to use thorium for their reactors. Thorium is, abundantly available in the world. But China is claiming that it has the maximum reserves of thorium, which is really not correct. India is the one which has maximum largest thorium reserves. But they have tested this. This is the first thorium molten salt reactor.
What exactly is thorium? Because people are used to nuclear reactors using uranium or plutonium. So what is this thorium molten salt? What does that do?
It is using thorium instead of plutonium or uranium. That is what it is doing. Okay? And thorium is abundantly available as compared to uranium and plutonium. Although China is, increasing its capacity of plutonium, and plutonium plants have also come up. They are being expanded. So instead of that, they're trying to use thorium, and they have been successful. That is the main thing. Till now, nobody was successful. We've been rest of the world has been trying since 1960. Thorium reactors have not been successful. Yes, somebody was asking you a question.
Oh, said I know that there are a lot of countries who have been testing thorium reactors, but no one has come out with a commercial one. Are you saying that that China is doing it. It has already succeeded. I know they have goals to do one by, they have a goal to do one by like 2030 or something like that. But they've already done it, is what you're saying.
This is what has been seen. Next slide number 18, shows it is an old, satellite imagery. So by now they have already constructed it, and they claim that it is successful. Now we really don't know how far it is true or not, but they do claim that it is successful. The thorium molten salt reactor.
That's interesting because if it is successful, that means that China has gone beyond just stealing other countries' technology to actually being able to innovate and surpass other countries, in the United States in particular.
True. That is what they're trying to do, and they have succeeded in this. They're also trying to put it on, if you come on to the next slide of slide number 19, which shows the box container ship. They are planning to have a container ship with the TMSR, that is the thorium molten salt reactor.
What's the purpose of that?
Make it smaller also. The one on ground in Gobi Desert is a large one. So on ships, they require smaller reactors. So if they are able to succeed in that, they will be putting it on the first ship that is likely to come up in another 2-3 years' time. So let's see how far they are able to succeed and miniaturize that TMSR.
I know that the United States has nuclear-powered submarines, and I think they might be uranium, and they've been around really for decades. Can't that technology be used instead of the TMSR technology?
It can be used on container ships also, but generally container ships we've not been using. Rest of the world has not been using, especially the USA has not used it on. We don't want to proliferate. That is what is the main thing. China is one which does not bother about proliferation. They are the biggest culprits of proliferation. They have given the technology, every kind of technology, to North Korea, Pakistan, Iran, even Russia. They're supplying now weapons and all. And Myanmar also, through North Korea or otherwise, whatever way you think, what the China would be taking those paths and proliferating. So it is really bad. Somebody comes and gets hold of that container ship. Imagine if they're going and some rogue elements come up onto that ship, which is not, safeguarded by weapons. So how is it going to, it is going to be very, very risky.
So, I mean, I see that I'm looking at this Chinese shipyard that's saying that it's doing this thorium reactor to build the largest ever container ship, the one that you're showing us now. So they're kind of saying it's going to be like the reason they're building it is it's zero emissions, right? Like this is like,
Oh, it's green.
yeah. So it's kind of being positioned as a green technology. But I mean, how likely is this to be used to power Chinese aircraft carriers, like things like that?
Well, Chinese aircraft carrier, they are planning to have the next one, that is the fourth aircraft carrier, as a nuclear one. But we're really not sure unless the construction starts and is visible on satellite imagery. Will not be able to really say so. But they are likely to use, nuclear reactors in the fourth aircraft carrier. Third one is already, almost about to reach the sea trial stage. The fourth one the construction has not started. Part of it probably has started in Jiangnan, Tangxing, but we really don't know. We've not seen it on satellite images as yet. But they are planning it. and they are likely to use nuclear reactors. They already have, SSBNs, so that is not much of a problem for them.
Would the thorium give them an advantage over the U.S. nuclear powered aircraft carriers?
It's really, you can't uh, fathom the age just with one particular, type of thing. Like say the nuclear reactor itself. The other things which come along with it, the tactics, the strategies, and how it is built, and how it will be used in a particular scenario, a situation, all that differs. The USA has a large experience of war fighting, right from World War One and Two. You, the U.S. Navy has seen all this. The Chinese Navy has not. So, just having an equipment and not having the strategies, tactics will be difficult. The comparison is very difficult to make. But then, yes, tomorrow, say if they are going to fight a war, after the rejuvenation, the world is expecting it to fight a war with US by say 2035 or so. That is what most of the senior officers of the US Army, Navy, Air Force are saying. Then they would have an edge over the US. As it is today, the Chinese Navy has more number of ships than the US Navy. So the numbers really do not count in a conflict. You do have other things also like experience, and the machinery is totally different. Theirs is copied one. They have not tried it in a warlike situation. So all that does make a difference. The missile target range. China is, it's in a habit of creating these missile target ranges, which are very, very interesting. The one which they have recently created is for the ships. If you go on to slide number 21, you can see a S-shaped track. It's a railway track which they have constructed over which a number of ships would be moving. Number of ships like the US aircraft carriers and US ships have been created in that area. The area is almost 30 by 30 kilometers. It is massive area where they've created this particular range. Slide number 22, you can see the ships. Two of them are on the track, one is in the field otherwise. And 23 shows the aircraft carrier of the USA, and 24 shows a normal ship. And they are having various kinds of things to simulate those ships. Like the same kind of silhouette will be created on the radar. That is what they're trying to do in this impact range of the missiles.
I'm curious, is the US training to shoot down Chinese ships? Like, this seems very provocative to know that, despite the, Lloyd Austin just had the military to military communications with China, but they're training to kill US troops. That seems hostile.
See, tomorrow, if a conflict has to occur, it has to occur either in, for Taiwan or somewhere in the South China Sea on these artificial islands that they have created, the Chinese have created. That is the area where, US does not have bases. Bases are slightly far away. So they will be using the ships. So the focus now for the Chinese is the Navy, the US Navy. That is what they will be focusing on. They already have good SAM systems which are covering the entire country's borders, especially the sea borders, that they are already covering. They have a large number of LPARs, that is the large phased array radars, which are covering, the entire area. Almost up to Guam, they can see what is happening on the radars. So if anything takes off from Guam, probably they will be able to cover that. That is kind of radar coverage that they have. So with that kind of knowledge and the US ships being there all in the open, it will be, it will not be very difficult for China to target them. So that is what they're trying to achieve. But if you see slide number 25, this is the impact range. The missile has not hit the main aircraft on the ground. Okay. And what we see in this, the previous impact range, which I showed, slide number 26, if you go to, okay, it shows two ships which are being created and they are on the track, right? So that is the kind of ships they are creating for targets, simulating the target. So they have not been able to hit these targets as yet. We have not seen any of these ships being hit by missiles because the impact, craters are always there. These ships will get destroyed. New ones will have to be used now. So that kind of stuff we have not seen. So probably the accuracy has not been as good for their missiles and whatever bombs that they are using.
Yes, if all of this can be seen by just public source civilian satellites, why isn't the Chinese Communist Party more concerned about people seeing that they're performing these kinds of tests targeting U.S. Naval ships, building space bases? Why aren't they concerned?
Well, I told you what is the aim of the Chinese is to fight, to win without fighting. This is what they're trying to show. We have this capability. They're trying to show off their capability as of date. And in all media, they're trying to, showcase that kind of stuff. If you see their rocket force also, last year and last to last year, we've seen suddenly they have jumped, to having so many silos. Almost 350 odd silos, new silos were created. And it has come out in the media. Everyone has seen it. So what they're trying to show is their capability. They're trying to communicate that. In deterrence, what is important is the capability, the credibility of that capability. Is it credible or not? And then communication of that threat to the opponents or the adversaries. So this is the way of probably they're communicating to the US and rest of the world that we do have this capability also. Although they have not achieved it as yet, as I can see it on the satellite imagery, their accuracy of their bombing is not very good. That is what I'm trying to say. Right?
So they want us to see this, which I guess it makes sense that at the beginning you said they are not 10 feet tall, that they're still humans, that we should not let this propaganda be successful in scaring us into thinking they are.
Oh, I was wondering. So you mentioned those silos that everybody was reporting on. What's to stop them from putting up a bunch of silos that don't have missiles in them? Do you know what I mean? Just to make it look more intimidating.
See, like, you always say, okay, every silo of that 350 odd silos that they have constructed may not be, armed. It may not contain a missile at all. But then, can the US or anybody else take that risk? That risk cannot be taken. You cannot really identify one silo from the other unless you have the capability of monitoring it, 24 by 7. Then only you will be able to say, okay, so many silos are not, they're not filled, and the rest are, they're having the missiles. You really can't say that. That is why you have number of missiles. That also gives the safety and security to the Chinese arsenal. That is one more point to their advantage, so that you don't know how many they have. So you have to give it to them and consider, okay, 350 will be there, and they are going ahead with producing plutonium and uranium, that they are going ahead. China also has their own military reactors. They have a large number of them. Four of them are military south of Chengdu. They're there, and they are going ahead with building more, and they are likely to produce more uranium and more plutonium, along with this thorium thing coming in. So they are really going ahead much faster than what the world is expecting. These are the kind of technologies, disruptive technologies China is trying to use everywhere. 28 shows the exoskeletons. Chinese soldiers can wear these and do much larger lifting of weights. Like they will be able to lift say more than 300 kgs at a time. That kind of stuff they're able to do. They can jump from one boulder to another, like what we had seen in during Doklam and Galwan crisis with China. What India had seen, some soldiers were just jumping from one stone to another in that kind of high altitude area. So some of us got worried, and then we got to know that they are using these kind of exoskeletons. That gives the ability to the soldier to do slightly more work. The exoskeletons are taking the weight of the soldier and giving him more push. They're also going into reprogenetics. Slide number 29. They're trying to change the genome sequence, and PLA is using it very much, especially in the P4 labs of China in Wuhan. They're trying to do this for reprogenetics so that they have the best of soldiers, they have the best of citizens. They are collecting the data from all over, including the USA. You know it, how the biolabs in USA, which were, which came to notice and they were destroyed. Those kind of things are happening, and they're collecting data of genome sequences from everywhere and trying to.
Okay, so you're saying that China is actively using genetic engineering and eugenics to create super soldiers.
Yes, that is what they're trying to do. Through genetic engineering, you can create the best of swimmers, best of divers, the best of soldiers. They will be able to perform perfectly. Everything is perfect, like a computerized person. Say it is a robot kind of a thing who is doing things absolutely perfectly. His build, his muscle tone, everything will be engineered.
So, what evidence do we have that China is doing these kinds of eugenic experiments trying to genetically engineer a super soldier? Because so far we've just been looking at satellite imagery, and it's one thing to see a mock-up of a U.S. aircraft carrier for missile tests. We're not getting satellite footage of these genetic experiments.
Yeah, we're not getting, but we do have the knowledge through the P4 labs and all. P4 labs satellite imageries are always accessible. You can see those P4 labs, but yes, certainly reprogenetics you'll not be able to see through the satellite imagery.
Well, I remember a few years ago there was that controversy where a Chinese scientist used CRISPR genetic engineering to actually create two genetically engineered children.
Yeah.
So they are doing things.
Well, that was like then immediately disavowed by the Chinese government
after a
and
huge
then-
international backlash.
Oh.
But I could see that being a cover because, like, they got who knows. It doesn't seem that unbelievable to me that they could be doing things like this.
No, but they are trying to do it. If you see, just like the Olympics has banned certain drugs, which does give a human being an extra kind of energy, extra boost at that particular point of time to perform much better than others. So that is why Olympic Committee has also banned those drugs. It is possible to change certain things, but genetically they are able to do so many things. They're doing their tests on animals, I believe, are quite successful. Okay, let's get on to slide number 30. This again is Theodron 2. It's a quantum computer pictures which have come out in Chinese media. Here the computing power has increased, but the bus speed, we really don't know how they're going to connect with other computers and get to that kind of speed. We really don't know. Okay, they're also getting into manufacturing of chips, AI chips, slide number 31. Okay, this is just, this is not through satellite imagery. This is just image which I've taken from the Chinese media. Okay, let's get on to slide number 32. China is trying to do global surveillance through data centers. This satellite image in satellite slide number 32 shows the African Union headquarters. Okay, they have the data center, underground data center in this particular place. We've seen in 2015 the case had come out in public that they trying to send out the entire data, whatever was coming to that African Union, to China from 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning. When the servers are not busy, that time they were sending that data. That is what China is doing in cyber surveillance throughout the globe. Everything they're trying to weaponize, even the cameras which people use, the CCTV cameras everywhere. Huawei had to be banned in the USA, and many other countries are also trying to ban it. But, places like India, it becomes very, very difficult to ban all these companies suddenly, because we do not have the manufacturing setup as yet. So we'll have to do it slowly. USA certainly can ban it because they already have the manufacturing base. And what is China trying to do with their data centers? Let's come on to slide number 33. This is the 10 cents data center. It is a civil data center, but they have put it underground. It is 60 meters below the earth. If you zoom on to the facility, you will be able to see the gates which are hardened. This is a hardened data center which has been created by Tencent's company. That is a Chinese company, and they have gone underground. Similarly, Huawei has also gone underground somewhere nearby. I have not shown it here. Okay, and next slide is 34. The moment it is getting older, now it is become green, and you really cannot make out. It is 60 meters below the ground. That means China is really trying to fight the war. Tomorrow, if they go for war, they will be hitting our data centers everywhere, whether it is India or the US. They will be hitting the data centers which are all in the open. We are having data centers in multi-storied buildings in the cities, but they have gone underground already. Their civilian data centers have gone underground.
Which would obviously make it difficult to hit with a missile strike in the event of a conflict.
Yeah, so it will be able to survive even a nuclear hit. It will really require a very, very strong missile to hit that particular location.
That really makes me feel better that, like, even if there is a nuclear war and humanity is destroyed, the internet and the memes will continue.
Only the Chinese ones.
I imagine they have all the memes.
Oh, because they just have all.
They're storing all the data.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Their data will be safe. Our human beings, we give more importance to human beings, but they're along with the human beings, they're also giving importance to their data centers. That means in a conflict, they will certainly hit our data centers. That is for sure. Okay, let's come on to slide number 35. This is Yitu Technology CEO, Trulung. It has been banned in the USA now. Okay, they have gone in for 1.8 billion facial recognition algos and all that. The slide number 36 shows the gait recognition. That is the software which they've created, Watrix. That is China's gait recognition. They're able to recognize the gait of a person and recognize him.
It's going to have to be like in Dune, where you have a different gait and walk kind of these sliding steps to throw off the
sandworms.
The sandworms or the giant horrible worm of Chinese surveillance.
Well, it's okay because they'll figure out what your sliding gait looks like.
No, you just mix it up all the time.
So you're saying that to save ourselves, we need to do the Ministry of Funny Walks.
Yes.
Or silly walks.
I was referencing Dune, but if that's your cultural reference.
From like the 1970s. Excellent, Shelley.
From the 1970s Britain, yeah. No. Okay, but no, I just mean because you said you would have to vary your sliding walk so that they wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, and every human being's gait is different. Everybody walks slightly differently every time, and it is very, very easy to recognize it with the software. The next slide is 37. It shows Yahya Sinwar in one of the, IDF had used in his Gaza Strip. The gait recognition software was used, and he was identified and he was captured. China is also using new wind tunnels. That is slide number 38. Okay, this one is in Mianyang. It is north of Chengdu. Mianyang is the place. And they have these kind of wind tunnels. They can use, the aircrafts which are going at much higher speeds, like say 10 Mach, 20 Mach, 30 Mach. Also, they can test. The latest one, what they are claiming is 30 Mach. That is not yet fully constructed. But what we can see on Google Earth, it is almost ready. And imagine the kind of speeds that they are talking about. So hypersonics, they will be able to achieve that kind of speed in hypersonic missiles. And hypersonics, since they do not rise above, 90 to 100 kilometers, they're very difficult to be caught on radars. So that is the advantage which China is getting.
Wow. So that's Mach 30 would be like a missile that could travel across the Pacific in like 10 minutes.
Yes, something like that. So what China has tested, the FOBS, it is they are using this technology for the entire circling of the Earth. We really don't know if it will be one circle or 1.5 circles. We really don't know, and which angle they'll be firing, whether it is coming over the Arctic and Antarctica, whatever way, we really would not know. The US, it will be very difficult to locate these missiles. That is what I'm trying to say. Most of the large phase array radars, they can detect things in space, but at a particular angle only. Unless the missile is rising above 100 kilometers from the Earth, it becomes very difficult to catch it. And you have to catch it in time to react to it. And reacting to a missile which is, say, moving at 10 Mach or say 20 Mach also. Suppose tomorrow they have something like that. You need a missile which is moving faster than that. To intercept a missile which is moving at 10 Mach, you need something to move at more than that speed, say at least 12 Mach. Then it will be able to catch them. Otherwise, it is very difficult to destroy those kind of missiles. Okay, next slide is slide number 40. It shows the synchrotron. That is high energy synchrotrons. They are used in military field also, especially in medicine they are used. That is the kind of, this is the largest synchrotron in the world. Although the CERN of Geneva, that is supposed to be the largest. That is at, say, 100 meters.
So this is a particle accelerator like CERN.
Yes, correct. Particle accelerator. So, synchrotron, it is used for military purposes also, not for killing, but in medicinal technology it can be used.
I mean, what's the potential danger of having the synchrotron if it's just for medicine?
I mean, for military use.
Oh, it is for military use. Okay.
They do use it for other civilian purposes also. But this has just been constructed, so we really don't know which way they're trying to go. This is the first one, but that is the largest in the world as of date. Okay, so slide number 42 is China's quantum project. It is barely 60 kilometers from the Indian border, India-Tibet border. Okay, I'm very specific about this because India never had a border with China, ever. So since the time China has occupied Tibet, that is how we have a border with China. Otherwise, we never had a border with China. So I always call it occupied Tibet, and the border is between India and Tibet. Okay, so this is 60 kilometers from India. It has the test that they are trying to do is photon teleportation. Photon has been teleported up to the satellite, and again it has if you see slide number 44, it shows this is the Chinese paper which has shown the same facility. On the left of the image you can see a photon being teleported to the satellite. Okay, so that kind of latest technology that they are trying to innovate. So any satellite which is not a quantum satellite will be, threatened. Okay, technology proliferation, slide number 46. Okay, China is constructing a large number of ships for Pakistan. Obviously, China wants to fight India with Pakistan as its ally. And that is why they're supporting them. They've given them submarines, they're giving them ships. And this is the one, the latest one is PNS Rizwan. It is an instrumentation ship. You can see the roundel on top of the ship. It is the same one which Yuanwang ship of China has. The same kind of opening and same kind of gun is seen on satellite imagery. Slide number 47 shows it without the dome. That is the radar which you can see, which is in the open.
What is the purpose of the ship?
Purpose is instrumentation. So anything happening in the space, say your missile launches are there, they will be able to monitor the missile launches from India also. And the same kind of thing, if they give it to Myanmar, then obviously India is fully covered. We have good relations with the Myanmar Janta. And if they give another ship, China has been giving submarines to Myanmar also. Obviously, the PLA Navy staff would be there in Myanmar. Whatever contingencies come, say submarine has developed some fault, so who's going to repair it? The Chinese people, Chinese engineers will come and repair it. That kind of thing happens. So if the staff is also there, China also has the information. This is the instrumentation ship which is used for space events, basically. It is just like a smaller version of Yuanwang ship of the Chinese. Okay. And slide number 49 shows a close up of that dome on the Chinese ship Yuanwang 3. Slide number 58. Any expeditionary force that China is likely to use, the Zuber class ships, that is type 728, that's what China calls it, they will be used. What has happened now is China has changed the CIWS, the close-in weapon systems, which were in front. Earlier, they were what one of the ships shows, the green circle is there. That is the position they were in. They have been shifted now to the front. With that, what has happened is the weapon system has come forward so that the ship to shore, when they are, that is, the strategy has changed. China has made sure that this particular ship will be able to go very close to the shore and land its troops. Very, very close. So it will be something like 20 to 30 meters. That is the kind of closeness it will close distance it will go. If they use, say, type 728 Zuber, they'll be able to go that close with their weapon systems right in front. Okay, so the deflated position is shortened so that the ships can move closer and the troops can, immediately land on the beach. Moving, say, instead of 100 meters behind, they can go to up to, say, 20 meters also. They'll be able to go that far ahead. And these are, hovercrafts. So they will be able to go ahead even on the beaches. That is faster. The ship to shore, the distance will be lessened. Okay, let's get on to slide number 60. This shows Yuanwang space event ships at somewhere close to Jiangnan Tangqing. It's along the river. You can see most of the Yuanwang ships. Yuanwang 21 and 22 are used for transporting these long march weapons, the rockets from Tianjin to Hainan. They're being used. These two ships. Okay. Okay, I think that is all. I mean, almost everything is important, but most of the things I've covered, space I've covered space quite a bit, I think.
So what I take is the main point is that the Chinese Communist Party is a highly military industrialized society that has clear aims at taking the fight against the US on land, sea, and in space. That they are preparing for conflict.
They are preparing for a war. I am not mincing my words. I'm not calling it a conflict. Conflict will be a small thing. War is what they are preparing, and that too with the USA. They say it very, very clearly that India is no competition for them. They are not preparing for India. They are preparing to have a war with the USA, and accordingly, they are going ahead. They are matching everything that the US has and trying to go slightly further. Anything that they are constructing as of date, say their tankers, with the PLA Navy tankers, they're making sure that the tanker which is going with their CVs, the carrier vessels, will be the largest. So that is what they're planning for. Their expeditionary force, they have so many civilian ships that can be, the stuff, what they say, they can be picked up. And a large number of stations they have created for loading and unloading. And that is being uh, tested by the units also, the army units, which are likely to do. If you see one of the slides, okay, slide number 61, this is what every unit has. They have made a shape of a ship, and they can, load from the front or from the aft, whatever way, and unload. And that's what they're practicing. They are practicing for a war, and they're really trying to become good at it to cover whatever inexperience that they have. They're trying to cover it by having larger number of forces, having more practice. That is what they're trying to do.
It's insane to me because it seems like the U.S. is still very much operating under the idea that we can somehow find a way to work with and coexist with the Chinese Communist Party when they are planning to destroy the U.S., which can be seen in satellite images very easily.
Coexisting, what China calls is win-win cooperation. It is only win for China only and nobody else. Today, what they think is the, you know, Chunghua Minzu, that is the Chinese people, are the sole owners of this world. That is what they're focusing at. They say we are the central country and we will be the central for everyone. We want to be the global. They do not mince their words. They say, okay, Sanchan is the one. The three warfares, they are wars that China has unleashed on the rest of the world. Everywhere you go, you see the weaponization of everything, even economy. They're trying to weaponize it. For what? For them, everybody else is an enemy. They do not coexist with anybody. They want to win the other countries. Like India, the moment India said, okay, you will not have China Pakistan economic corridor, they started all these Doklam and Galwan activities. The moment you try to oppose them in anything that they want, they create problems for you elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking of just Australia asking for an investigation to the origins of COVID.
It becomes very difficult for countries like India, whose priority is economy and going ahead. A war is forced onto them. Like, we cannot help it but to go ahead and counter them. But yes, Indian army is stood up against them, and we will give them a good fight. That is for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show and showing us these satellite images. It paints a very clear picture of what the CCP is doing. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Very true, Chris. And thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Shelley. Thanks a lot to all your viewers.
If people want to follow you and see some more of your research, where can they go?
Yeah, thank you so much. You followed me. I saw that. And, if people want to follow me, they can follow me on Twitter, Raj47.
And we'll put that up on screen, and we'll also put that in the comments below. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
Yeah, it's just incredible to me because there was just the meeting, the first online video conference call between Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart since 2022, and they're, the U.S., the White House is like, hey, military to military communication back on, so important, and it's like they're building U.S. aircraft carriers and practicing blowing them up.
Well, I mean, I'm sure they don't mean it.
Yeah, it's like, well, I think I remember people we've talked to have said the sort of the way they spin it is the Chinese officials, they're like, oh yeah, there's this element in the party that's nationalistic and hawkish, and so we don't want them to have more power. So if you work with us, then they won't have the power. But if you are aggressive, then it's going to be them. It's your fault.
Are they
if we
good
go to war.
copying, bad copying the U.S.? Is that what you're saying they're doing? Oh man, I mean, Blinken is currently in China actually, as this is released.
Don't blink.
But I was thinking when Vinayak was talking about the whole thing about, even having the satellite pictures exposed helps the CCP with their propaganda. Do you remember all these photos coming out, satellite images of they had in the deserts of Inner Mongolia or something, rebuilt the Taiwanese presidential palace to practice invading it or whatever. And I was just like, oh yeah, even I hadn't thought about the part about even if they
it gets caught.
Well, yes, even if it's useless for them to actually do that, then just even building that is a whole propaganda thing, both domestically, right, and for foreign consumption, intimidate Taiwan, warn the U.S., also build up nationalistic sentiment inside China for retaking Taiwan or whatever. Yeah,
But it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, they think that by intimidating other countries, they can get everyone to surrender before ever having to fire a bullet. But on the other hand, what it may do, and what I think to some degree it is doing, is making those other countries think, oh wow, this is really real, but we're still not going to surrender. So now we're just going to build up our own military.
What are you basing that on?
Which countries are you talking about now?
Well, that's more of a hypothetical.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
maybe this will be the response.
I do think that Japan is kind of doing that.
I was going to say, it's actually Japan. The whole AUKUS thing is a response to China's military aggression. Taiwan is, to some degree, beefing up its military. The U.S. stationing more troops in Taiwan, or kind of unofficially. I think it is causing AUKUS countries to take the threat more seriously when they can see this buildup. They're just not doing, or the Quad. Sorry, they're just not doing it as much as they really maybe ought to.
Well, yeah, there is definitely not this broad consensus in the American government, both executive and legislative, and in the American society that this is a hostile Marxist-Leninist state that is at war with us.
Yeah, I mean, I believe the Trump administration got close to saying that because they had like, uh, oh my God, the Secretary of State
Pompeo.
My mind like just lost his name for a second. They had him give a speech. They had Christopher Wray give a speech. Like they had all of these officials give speeches about how the CCP is the Chinese Communist Party, and like they are a communist party, and this is what they want, and kind of reframing that. But then now we can't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, you even see this in things like TikTok. Like people are like, well, why do we need to get rid of TikTok? This is bad. It's like it is a weapon created by our enemies who are at war with us.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think it was initially created as a weapon, but I think it was opportunistically like, oh, well, okay, this is actually a pretty good weapon.
Yeah.
Like, but I was actually, but the TikTok thing I think is a little bit hopeful. I mean, I've been surprised that, there are people on the left and the right that are accidentally buying into but they're buying into the same like propaganda from the CCP, like the whole like free speech thing, or the whole like Facebook is worse than TikTok.
You said you were hopeful.
Yes, that there are people who have actually been like, because I subscribe to a lot of different like Substacks or different media, and I've noticed people actually. There are people who have like a pretty clear idea of what's happening with TikTok. People who have nothing to do with China, like people I read their Substacks because I think they're entertaining writers, like, but they're not like maybe they were journalists or something, but they have nothing to do with China. And like on their own, they came to the conclusion that like one of them wrote this guy Ben Dreyfuss, who's actually Richard Dreyfuss's son, but he used to work for Mother Jones before like he left, and then because it was getting too weird. And then he has a Substack that he just writes about like whatever. It's not about politics necessarily, or it's definitely not about China, but he wrote an entire essay about why the U.S. should ban TikTok.
Wow.
Or I was reading some like news roundup today, and it mentioned the CCP. Like it just kept saying the CCP and TikTok, and I was just like
actually CCP.
Actually CCP.
Wow.
I want to point out the importance of this, in opposed to what the U.S. State Department and Defense Department are doing, which is the State Department and Defense Department seem to believe that they can establish a relationship with China by understanding the factional struggles and by building individual relationships. But the flaw in that thinking is that those things are totally subsumed by the monster that is the Chinese Communist Party. And a great example of that is this belief that China was reforming in the 1980s. And then, you had individuals who you might have been able to build a relationship with, who might have actually wanted reform, different factions like Zhao Ziyang. And they were totally crushed, just like the students. They were crushed by that overwhelming power of the Marxist-Leninist ideology of the Communist Party, which is to say that no matter what relationships the U.S. State Department or Defense Department try to build, they're not going to mean much because they're never going to have power to go against what the Chinese Communist Party overall is trying to do.
I think that's a good point. And there's a reason that when a lot of Chinese diplomacy is centered around the idea of like people-to-people connections. So that means like not government to government. It's like just having things like sister city relationships, or, things where you have like exchanges of like, oh, like have your scientists come meet our scientists, or have
which is where they get all of that technology.
But like the whole thing about people to people relationships, it not only is like a good PR move, right? And I think like on one level, yes, it does build more understanding. There's a reason that like countries employ this kind of thing. But on the other hand, it's very good for the CCP in terms of almost masking what they're really doing. And because then I'm thinking of John Kerry and how he's kind of built this relationship with his like his counterpart, the guy who handles like climate change environmental stuff on the Chinese side, right? To the point where like they had like that Kerry had met him when he was in the State Department. He had like known him for so many years that when Kerry became the climate czar, the CCP pulled this guy out of retirement to have him meet with Kerry again. And the idea is that like, the idea is like, oh, well, they're buddies, right? Like, so you have this idea that you have this personal relationship with this guy, and that's going to somehow help you with what you want to achieve. But
And then you don't realize that relationship is a lie.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, oh, like you might have a personal relationship with this guy, but like ultimately he has to answer to the party, and that personal relationship is not going to get you more sway. It actually is like influencing you. You're not influencing them.
It reminds me of that. This was like the 60s or the 70s. That French diplomat who fell in love with a Chinese Peking opera singer who was a guy playing a female part. He didn't know that. But then there was like this elaborate thing where he, dressed as she, seduced him and created this whole relationship with him, including like having a fake son. And like that, hey, he thought he had a relationship, but it was just this man pretending to be a woman on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party, and this elaborate lie.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that until you mentioned it. It's a play by David Henry Hwang now called M. Butterfly. But yeah, it's a crazy story.
Yeah. So hey, people to people communication. Great.
Good luck with that, State Department and Defense Department.
So I am glad you are watching and you can know and understand that we are at war. And I hope you can share that with your friends and family over, nice dinners where they're just trying to have a dinner. Quit talking to us about this thing.
Quit mentioning the CCP.
Yeah, I am great. I'm glad to hear that people are saying the CCP.
Yeah, it was. I should probably actually call out the media that did it. Was the Free Press and their like Friday news roundup. They were mentioning because the TikTok. We were filming this on Friday, so the TikTok bill is going through Congress this weekend, and so they were talking about the CCP and TikTok, and I was like, yeah, they keep saying the CCP. This is a win, especially compared to where we were.
Maybe we've played a role in that zeitgeist.
Yeah, getting people to understand that it's the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah. So, and hey, you're part of that as well. So thank you for watching. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell.
I'm